tonight we're here with Kim DeMars and Steve Davis from UVM, and we will be asking them all about the UVM Morgan Horse Farm in Weybridge, Vermont. So we have this short little video telling us a little bit of the history of the farm, and then Steve and Kim's roles there. So we'll get started, and then we'll go over to a Q&A. So if you have a question to ask Kim and Steve, what you can do is you can click the little chat button and send it in. But to get started, our first question for them, and you guys can both take a turn to answer, is how did you get involved in Morgan horses?
Well, I'll start being senior. I grew up in Middlebury, Vermont, just 3 miles from the UVM farm, and worked and apprenticed with a professional trainer, Bob Baker, who did primarily Morgans, and he worked for the US government in the 1930s and then for the university in the 1960s. So he had a direct link, and he took me to the farm for my first visit, and I was enchanted at a very young age.
My first horse was a Morgan, and I had her when I was 7 years old, and she was just 4. So it was not always a perfect pairing, but we made it work. And then I went off to college, and I grew up here in the Middlebury area. I should start there. And then I went off to school, and when I came back home, I met up with Steve and had always visited the horse farm as a young girl. And then when he asked me to come see him one summer day, I stopped over and we joined a relationship and a professional kind of inkling, and the rest, I guess, as they say, is history.
That seems to be how a lot of people get started. They just see it and then that's it. So our next question is, how did the UVM farm get started?
Well, I'll chip in again. You saw in the opening video that a private owner started the farm and assembled a great herd of Morgans, Joseph Patel, and he was a very influential and wealthy philanthropist from Middlebury, and he has a large family presence in that town and a great connection to Middlebury College, for example. And he started the Morgan Registry in 1890. And he had a newspaper, the Middlebury Register, and so his background in that profession helped with the registry and compiling the records and so forth and printing them. And then he wanted his work carried on, and he gave his property and some core brood horses to the federal government in 1907, which was documented in the little opening video also. So that was a very fortuitous deal, and for 40 some years the government ran it, and then the University of Vermont, when the US government phased out, the University of Vermont was designated by the Vermont legislature to take over the farm.
So currently there are several educational programs at the farm. Could you talk a little bit about the UVM apprenticeship program? And if somebody was interested, how would they apply for that?
Yeah, I can talk kind of currently what's happening at the Morgan Horse Farm, and Steve probably or will talk a little bit about the history of the program. Currently, the program is open to anyone who is over 18 years and above, male or female. Typically, we have younger females that come to us, and basically what it is, it's a full immersion program for a full year. So you come, live at the farm, work at the farm, and you get to see all aspects of a breeding training facility, as well as a tourism destination. So for a lot of people that come to us as an apprentice, it's a great way for them to decide if they want to stick with it in the equine industry and go on and do something with horses, or sometimes they decide that it's not really for them. So that's one of our educational opportunities right now. We also have some internships that we've just started over the last few years. That's more for matriculated college students. So if you're a college student, you can get credit, and you can either do a fall or a summer internship with us. We're also working on a spring internship right now. But the apprenticeship program is great. I personally wish I had done it. I never did it when I was growing up, but it was something I was always interested in. And it's just really a great way for younger people to decide and really get kind of the feel for what it's like to be in the horse industry, in the horse world, and working, 6-7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So it's really wonderful. If anyone's interested, there's a small process to apply for the apprenticeship program. We just ask for 3 letters of recommendation, and then there's a small application fee. I think it's $75. And anyone that's interested can email the farm's email. You can find that on our website or also on our farm Facebook page, and just email, say that you're interested in the apprenticeship program, and then we can help facilitate things from there.
Yeah, I could also mention a little bit of that history that Kim alluded to. My career mentor, Dr. Donald Walsh, who was the first director of the UVM farm, taking over in 1952, shortly after the university acquired the property and the herd. He started the apprentice program, and it was sort of the same era as my employment after graduating from UVM Animal Science. And so I have lots of memories of many apprentices, and there are a significant number of people that are professionals in the Morgan business that had a background in that apprenticeship program, which they, I think, will tell you was a key in their love for the breed, but also an indoctrination into the rigors of the profession.
The next question is, what do you look for when breeding a Morgan at UVM? Do UVM horses only get bred to other UVM horses?
I'll let Steve take this one.
Dr. Balch, who I mentioned, the founder of the university's animal science program link to the UVM farm, started with some government bred horses from the U.S. tenure. And he immediately went out to some local stallions, or I should say regional stallions in New England. And one of those stallions was Upwey Ben Don. So that was an outcross, if you will, to the core government UVM families. And behind us, Kim and I, here is a picture of a son of Upwey Ben Don, and out of a UVM mare or a US mare. And this is UVM Flash, who was a foundation for Don's program. And there are direct links to this wonderful horse in the UVM horses today.
To go along with what Steve said, he instilled all of those kind of core qualities in the herd that he navigated for many decades. And since his retirement, I have been vigilant in keeping up with that. And so the herd is still linked to the herd that Dr. Balch and Steve have worked so hard to preserve and perpetuate. And so all of those same core beliefs are still at the Morgan Horse Farm today.
So with the horses that come out of the breeding program, it said they have a unique naming sequence. Could you explain how the UVM horses are named?
Sure. So depending on what year they're born, every horse, every foal that is born at the farm, for the most part, if they're a UVM owned animal, they'll have the prefix UVM for the University of Vermont. And then depending on what year they're born, we use the letter of the alphabet. So this year, every foal that's born is UVM and it has to start with D. Their name has to start with D. Last year it was C. So we follow the alphabet through, and Steve knows better than I, but I think we've circulated through the alphabet. How many times, Steve?
Oh, 4 or 5,
Yeah.
I think.
So it gets a little tricky when you get closer to the end of the alphabet, like X and Y and Z, but that's how we do it at the horse farm.
So the next question, and I know you talked a little about it when you were talking about what do you look for when breeding a Morgan, is who have been some of the most important broodmares or sires to your program?
Well, I'll start with a historic perspective. I think that Don Balch, Dr. Balch, would say that his favorite mare of his era, which was 1952 to 1985, was UVM Novelty. And she was a beautiful little chestnut mare. And I say little, probably 14.2, a very versatile performer in the pleasure divisions and a successful show winner in regional and local competition. And she produced several nice foals and core brood additions. And then I think UVM Kathy was another core family matriarch. And she was the result of an outcross. Again, you asked that question earlier about, is it a closed breeding situation? Or over the years, there have been several successful outcrosses, and Kathy was sired by Auckland Vigildon, and that mating was through the generosity of the Ela family. And by the way, I should say that almost all of the outcrosses are due to the generosity of private Morgan breeders in our region, and now with semen transport and everything all over the country. So those are a couple of historic mares, and Kim has some families, I think, that are more to the point and current.
So one mare that sticks out for me, and I think it will stick out for Steve too, UVM Freya, who is a UVM Tennyson daughter, and she is senior now. She's 23, I believe, 24. She's had quite a few nice offspring for the farm, and some have gone on to be pleasure horses, some have gone on to be show horses, and she has sired quite a few nice mares for us that we've kind of reincorporated back into the breeding program. Again, when I say little, she's probably 15 hands, and Steve showed her as a young horse, so he has some stories about her. I've only known her more as a nice, quiet, retired brood mare, but she's very pretty, very typey, and really stamps her offspring. So she's one for me that really stands out as a great product and representation of the Morgan breed and what the Morgan Horse Farm has been producing.
Yeah, I think Kim's words reminded me of a very influential mare, sort of midterm in this era of UVM that we speak of, and that would be UVM Unity. And she had a very impressive show record. And many times, if you think about national performing UVM Morgans, it would be under the banner of private owners. The university has never been able to show horses at that level. So, for example, UVM Unity was a regional champion mare for the university at New England in hand, and then she was purchased and went on to become world champion mare, I think, 3 times, and also open pleasure driving champion for Lynn Peoples and Bryna Watson, the lady that acquired Unity. And I think, again, the families that I was taught to appreciate through Dr. Balch's mentorship, and which have now gone on to a couple of sons of, and direct links to UVM Unity, and Kim's inheritance, if you will, are through this wonderful UVM Unity.
So that kind of answers the question, but do you have a favorite horse within the program?
That's a good question. I think I don't have one specific favorite horse. I like them all for their different qualities. UVM Freya, again, is one that sticks out that I really appreciate her as a broodmare and what she's done for the farm and what she continues to do for the program. A horse that is more of an outcross than maybe what we've been talking about here. UVM Willoughby is a stallion that we've been using. He's coming into his, beginning teen years. He's, I believe, 7 this year, so he's kind of in the prime, and he's a great representation also of just a nice Morgan stallion. He's not very large, but he's mighty, and he's one that just has a great work ethic and is very bright and just kind of that versatile Morgan that everyone pictures, I think, when they talk about a Morgan. So he's one that I really also appreciate. Those are 2 that right now I like a lot, and I think they're doing great things for us at the Morgan Horse Farm, and I just really appreciate them.
I guess I'd chime in back a few years from my perspective, having been retired now for going on 4 years. My favorite horse was UVM Watchman, and he was a large UVM Morgan at 15.2, very talented mover, and he was junior champion stallion in hand, which the breed classes have always been a key focus for the university's breeding goals and form to function emphasis and so forth. But Watchman went on to be a very good performer, and on a local and regional basis was champion park saddle, and he was also a park harness horse and shown by my mentor Donald Balch. And he just had as Kim said about Willoughby, a great work ethic, a disposition that lent itself to the very public nature of the university's setting, UVM Morgan Horse Farm setting. And it was just a horse I grew up with in my career and have fond memories of.
Shifting back to your career, what made you interested in becoming a part of the UVM program rather than becoming a traditional horse trainer with your own farm?
I'll jump in. I think having been an animal science student at the University of Vermont and recognizing the influence of the land grant university systems in New England, and around the country. It's a bigger picture than training horses of a private breeder or several different owners. It's more of a public goal and career destination, if you will. And by the way, if you've not been to the UVM farm, it's a very public place which offers tremendous promotional opportunity for the Morgan breed. But it also offers a lot of challenges for a real training program and getting horses competitive for the show ring, for example. So I guess knowing of these larger objectives and being involved with the judging, for example, over the years, and many different capacities as a youth consultant and advisor, that's one of the reasons that I chose the path of working for the University of Vermont.
My answer is similar to Steve's. While I did not attend the University of Vermont, I grew up in Addison County and have a deep love for this community that the farm is kind of situated right in the middle of. And the community itself, the young generation, the next generation that's coming up through the ranks, this county is heavily seated in agriculture, and agritourism is quite a large thing. And so when I first started working at the Morgan Horse Farm with Steve and for Steve, that was something that he was always very proud of, and something that he really instilled in everyone that was there with him, that the community was such a big part of the Morgan Horse Farm. And we were really kind of carrying that torch along throughout the community to tell people of the Morgan breed and get them excited about that and get them interested in it and have them come to the farm and do all of these different opportunities with horses, and specifically within the Morgan breed. So for me, that really kind of sealed the deal, that I was very happy there and comfortable there, and was really invested in getting that message out kind of to the world and to this community that I grew up in, that Morgans were great and are great, and everyone should have one and be interested and invested. And so that's why I chose to be a part of the team with Steve.
What part of your job do you like the most, and what is the hardest part about your job?
Well, currently I would say we're just beginning foaling season. And for me, that has always been kind of a highlight of the year. Spring, as most Vermonters know, or anyone who kind of lives in the Northeast, winter is always long and hard, and the days seem very short. So once spring comes around, things are starting to get warm and green, and the days are longer. And I love seeing that first foal come out as much as I love seeing the last foal come out. So foaling season for me is really exciting, and I really like that the most. The hardest part of the job currently, I would say physically, is hay season. I was never one who loved hay season, so doing hay in the summer is not my favorite job. I don't love it, but it's something that everyone at the farm pitches in with. Steve, when he was there, was always right there next to us, unloading hay bales and running wagons and doing all of that. So yeah, I would say that's one job that for me physically is the hardest, is hay season, but it makes you appreciate all those nice cool days in January and December.
I would agree with everything Kim said, and I did a lot of running hay wagons rather than handling bales, if I could arrange it. But I guess throughout my career, which spanned 45 years for the university's Morgan Horse Farm, every day I looked for the time spent with the horses, and I was allowed that opportunity and latitude to work with horses, which I was extremely grateful for throughout all that time period. But with this very public place and the educational duties and links that Kim has much more to do today than I did, the time with the horses is precious. And that's why I guess I valued it so greatly.
The next question is, do the horses from UVM go to Morgan Grand Nationals or any other shows? And could you talk about some of the UVM Morgans that have been successful in the show ring?
Yeah, I can touch base on the showing aspect, and then Steve can talk about the great ones that he's had. Steve touched base on this a little bit, but primarily Grand Nationals, if a UVM Morgan was there or is there, usually it's with their owner, usually under a different banner than the University of Vermont. With that said, and Steve knows much more than I about this, there have ever been horses under that banner at Grand National, certainly. And certainly before COVID, as we all know, before the world got so turned around, the University of Vermont always had some sort of presence at shows, whether it was a string of 8 horses or 4 horses. Steve did quite a bit to promote the Morgan breed and the university banner all throughout his career. And that would be the hope once COVID and things of that nature settle down, is that we will still have horses at these shows in some capacity in one way or another.
I have lots of fond memories of show ring achievements, and which was a key interest and focus of mine. And again, I feel very fortunate to have been able to pursue and develop over the years. And I wanted to start and credit, first of all, my horsemanship mentor, Bob Baker, who was very accomplished and sought after Morgan trainer in the 50s, 60s, and right through the 70s, and working with Dr. Balch and some of the UVM greats. And he also worked with several different proteges and apprentices for him that have gone on to extremely successful careers as private trainers. Just a couple of examples would be Lumen Wadhams, for example, Tom Case, now deceased. Bonnie Sogoloff was a UVM undergrad, and those are just some names of people that are now probably getting to be senior to you folks, but very, very active. Certainly Lumen's very active still. And then some of the apprentices that have come through the program have gone on to make big names in the show world, either as support personnel or trainers in their own right, and show people. But I guess back to your question about Grand National, Dr. Balch retired in 1985, and at that time he touted there were over 80 Grand National and World Champion UVM Morgans that had been bred by the University of Vermont that had won awards at the Grand National. And then in 1985, well, I should go back and say that Don Balch and I went to the first Grand National in Detroit in 1973, and we had a world reserve amateur pleasure driving champion, UVM Tea Time, who was the dam of Grand Dam of UVM Unity. And then that list of Grand National champions has been embellished since 1985 and is well over 100 now, I'm quite certain. Probably the most famous Grand National show horse was UVM Promise, a 3-time World Park Saddle Champion and also World Champion Stallion in hand for 2 or 3 different owners, actually, and had the benefit of expert horsemanship from Percy Locke and the Green Meats Farm here in New England, on to Whitney Stables in Cox Creek, Kentucky, then out west for the Wales family, and Keith Nelson worked with Promise at that time. And just a tremendous opportunity for that horse. And those of you in the show world know that it takes tremendous dedication and expert technicians to bring out the very best at certainly the Grand National.
So we are down to our last few questions, but if anybody who, over Zoom has any questions, you can send them through the chat. So the last, well, we're down to the last two. One of the last is, do you have any other notable anecdotes that you would like to share?
Well, I guess I'd start by saying I'd be remiss not to mention that I met my wonderful wife at the University of Vermont Morgan Horse Farm in the late 1960s, Josie Davis, and it was a very fortuitous pairing at the time, and we've since gone on and worked together at the university, and now we're both retired from that institution, and we owe a lot to it, and certainly our life together now are a great reminder of it.
Do you have anything you'd like to share, Kim?
Oh, my anecdotes or my
Yes, do you have any?
the knowledge, pieces of wisdom. I would say that for anyone who's interested in horses or, you know, going down this road of breeder or trainer or assistant or whatever it is that you're interested in, you know, I think that you can never learn too much. And so I would just encourage all of you to stick with it and just ride as hard as you can, drive as hard as you can, work as hard as you can, and really just see it as much as you can, and decide if it's something that you really want to try and pursue, and just keep working at it, and don't give up. These horses are great, and this industry is great, and it will pay dividends eventually. So just keep with it.
The last question we have for you, and then we'll go to the one from the chat, is what is your hope for the future of the UVM Morgan Farm?
Yeah, that's a great question. My hope is just to make, you know, the people that came before me proud, and to keep on with their vision for the farm and what they worked so hard for. For me, that's really what it boils down to be a great ambassador for the breed, for the program at the Morgan Horse Farm, but really just to carry on the traditions and the legacies that Dr. Balt, Colonel Joseph Patel, Steve Davis, these great people that have come before me, great men, to continue on with that and just make them as proud of the program that they built up as possible, and just keep moving on.
Kim is carrying the torch very well, and I should add that to see the as manager now, she's overseeing the implementation of the infrastructure improvements that are taking place currently at the historic property. And if you pay attention to that video, that main barn is a unique structure. And we know from experience, it is one expensive thing to take care of. And it's only one of several buildings on a 200-acre campus, if you will. So just the fact that the university and the Friends of the UVM Morgans are investing in keeping the physical plant in good operating order is a boon to the history, to the herd that's there currently, and to the agricultural community in New England.
So what looks to be like our last question in the chat is, how does UVM keep track of the Morgans that leave their farm?
I can talk a little bit about what we do now, and that was a system that Steve implemented and showed me during his time at the farm. We have a Friends newsletter that goes out And so everybody who purchases a UVM Morgan horse from the farm is signed up for that newsletter. So we stay in semi-direct communication with them through that. And then in terms of keeping tabs on the animals, we try to follow them as closely as possible. UVM Believer, who was a young horse that was raffled off last year, he has his own Facebook page. So a lot of these UVM Morgans go out into the world and really leave their stamp positively on their new owners and their new communities. And so we're able to follow them largely through social media and sort of the internal networking that we have through the Morgan Horse Farm that way. And we've been successful in kind of keeping tabs on the horses and touching base with the owners and just making sure that the horse's new career is going smoothly and that everything is going well. And so that seems to be a really positive piece of the kind of sales program that has been instituted at the Morgan Horse Farm, is keeping in touch with those new owners.
I guess I would add that in today's technical world, which has passed me by, as many people my age, Facebook and the opportunity to keep in touch with people has so greatly expanded, and to follow the careers, if you will, of UVM Morgans and the people that have purchased them is being carried on in a very efficient manner by the current staff. And Kim's associate, Margot Smithson, is a woman that was hired in my tenure. And she's very, very good at these IT deals and needs. And just bravo to the team that's there now for doing what they're doing.
We did get another question in the chat. With the negative impact from COVID last year, do you have any plans for public events this year?
Yeah, that's a great question. My understanding is that we will in some capacity. The kinks of all of that, or the real planning of all of that, is still underway. So I was told actually by Margot earlier today, if this same exact question came up, she is hoping to work very diligently over the next few weeks and put something out on our social media platforms through our website and our Facebook, kind of a blast, a blurb of what actually will be happening and what it'll look like. But I can say in this moment right now, yes, we will be open in some capacity for the 2021 season.
And I'd chip in and say that regionally, I'm involved with judging still, and will be, my contracts from last year were carried over due to COVID, and looking forward to getting back into those arenas, if you will, of seeing what the current climate is, and hopefully everyone's enthusiasm and just jubilation to get back to it. And I'm also working with 2 or 3 private owners now in retirement, and those people are hoping to show on a regional or local basis, and just get back to it. We're really looking forward to it.
So I think that's it, but I just wanted to say thank you, Steve and Kim, for coming on tonight. We were really lucky to have you, and you both had plenty of great things to share. Thank you to everyone who came to listen to Steve and Kim talk, and we can't wait to keep talking with you more in the next few weeks if you have anything to share.
Thank you, Sophie, and for Nicole and all of those who put this on tonight. And thank you for inviting myself and Steve, and it was great to be with you folks tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it. You guys did a great job, Council. Good job again.
All right, so thank you everyone for coming. And if you need a copy of this episode, then you'll be able to find it on YouTube within the next few days.
And on the website, AMHA website, there's a whole page dedicated to all the Morgan Horse Source episodes. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.